relatando tu pasado. Mentira relatando tu pasado.
What is going on, everybody? It's In the Money DFS podcast, week 2. My name is Justin. Of course, as always, joined by Dan. What's going on, Dan?
Man, week 2, bring it on. Justin, it's just in time tonight for DFS Thursday Night Football. You know, if we had to do this show earlier in the week, Justin, you might have been carrying me. I was a little depressed after week 1 there. You know, we talked about in our original episodes of In the Money that the season is a grind. And when I love the GPPs, so I like to, go big, and I have, weeks I don't do so hot. But then when you hit that big score, well, week 1 was that not so hot week. Just too much Austin Eckler, going back with OBJ, who let everybody down. But OBJ has a chance to redeem himself tonight and get back in my good graces and get a hot streak. I was in the money with some contests, but the big ones just didn't pan out for me. So we got to get it going now. We need a hot streak started tonight.
Yes, I was lucky. I doubled my money. So my cash game lineups were successful. We'll play a nice little sound effect right there. We'll do I cashed in this week. It wasn't a good week though. I wasn't happy with it, but I got saved by my $150 double up that helped me double it. Other than that, I was not so great because we had Eckler. I had Eckler. I didn't have any OBJ, but this week OBJ hopefully can turn around. So I also do a podcast, Father Son Fantasy Football. That's where most people probably do know me. And rarely do I get surprised by a stat my dad says, but the other day he surprised me. Odell Beckham, 10 targets, only 5 were deemed catchable. So Baker Mayfield not going to hopefully go against Baltimore every week, which only one more time. Tonight against Cincinnati, we're going to dig into that for the live stream viewers. And before we get into that, my Twitter at Justin_FFB, your Twitter at FFCoach Dan. Also be sure to follow the podcast Twitter at InTheMoneyDFS_. Don't forget the underscore. Live on YouTube, 7 o'clock Eastern time on Thursdays, except for today because Dan's super busy. So we're making it work here. But people, they could be eating dinner right now. They could just be done eating dinner, looking at tonight's game. Well, we're going to help the time pass by giving you guys some plays for the showdown tonight. So Dan, what you got here? Last week was McCole Hardman. You went with your gut. That did not turn out so well.
The good thing about week 1 is it provides a reality check. So I realized that for some reason Andy Reid still wants to play Demarcus Robinson, who still can't catch the ball a year later, and he ate into any Hardman opportunities I had. But this week the heart is out of it for the most part. We'll talk a little Dallas later, but I'm done with Hardman. Tonight's single game slate, I'm feeling pretty confident, Justin. Last week, as we mentioned, my big stack was the Ravens and the Browns. And the Ravens part was great. I mean, Lamar was legit. Mark Andrews was a stud. Hollywood Brown had his 100+ yards to get the DK bonus. So that was solid. But bouncing it back with Beckham, to your dad's point there, the balls just weren't catchable because they did target him a lot. That's encouraging me from going into tonight versus the Bengals. They targeted Beckham a lot. They want to get him involved. They know they need to get him involved. He looked good. He looked spry. He dropped one ball that he had, he probably should have caught that, he wants back. So I think he bounces back tonight. In DraftKings, I love Beckham in the captain spot. In FanDuel, I love Kareem Hunt in the captain spot. Again, it depends on the format that you're playing tonight. So I think Cleveland, I don't think they're going to, have that miraculous turn it around and blow it out game that some people are hoping for tonight. The Bengals played a very competitive game versus the Chargers. They've got talent on that roster on both sides of the ball. I think the Browns win, but I think it's a nice fantasy game tonight. I think the big controversy that we're going to have, Justin, is Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb. We talked about this a bit on Dynasty Theory. A lot of people say game script that favors Chubb tonight. They thought last week Kareem Hunt, got more burn because of the game script. But even when Cleveland was trying to be in that game last week, they were grinding with Kareem Hunt and running the ball, not just passing the ball. There's that little part of me that's thinking the lion's share is turned over to Hunt more than Chubb. And tonight, that's one answer I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's going to be the question. And I think it's okay to play both guys. You see committees often work. They basically 50-50 last game. And I think tonight they're going to use both guys like they did last week. And I believe they're going to be up in this game. with the Bengals trailing, and they're going to be more so running the clock out. But I think it's going to be a Chubb game more so than a Hunt game. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Mr. Hunt get 10-plus fantasy points tonight at all. So with a captain spot, who are you leaning towards in your captain spot on DraftKings?
Again, going with the narrative in my mind that
you got to play narratives. Yeah, you got to play narratives when you go with this single game slate. You have to play narratives.
Single game slate. I mean, it could play out a few different ways, as we know. I mean, it could be Cleveland Browns that we're all waiting for. Everybody goes off Baker, OBJ, Landry. Maybe they score a lot and you load up on Browns. But I'm looking at a little bit more of a competitive game in my narrative that's in my head right now. And I just still think Odell Beckham gets that 100-plus yard bonus and a bunch of catches because of all the targets we had last weekend. I love the matchup. You got to pair your captain quarterback with his receiver. So that puts Mayfield in my lineup for me. And I'm still looking at the Cincinnati team as an offense that's growing. I think the quarterback there, wow. The little brain fart there for Joe Burrow there for the Bengals. I think there's still growing pains. That's when you edit back in the podcast and you cut.
Well, they're not going to hear this. This is a live stream only, so you're chilling, Dan. Get all out now.
We had some fun with the live stream viewers there. But watching Burrow last week, he had moments where you see the tools, you see the potential, but he was very conservative early. I wasn't sure if that was the coaching staff starting him off slow or if they didn't have a preseason. Browns do have playmakers on defense, so I like the Browns defense mixed in there to save you some salary tonight versus those third string receivers or backup players.
Whoa.
So I see the Browns getting some turnovers and making something happen there. And then I love Kareem Hunt, like I said tonight. I'm leaning towards him getting the lion's share there. I think Mixon will get his targets. I find it hard to keep Mixon out of the lineup as well. On the Bengals side, too, I like Tyler Boyd. I think it's a nice matchup there in the slot. I think he bounces back. He won't be facing Chris Harris like he did last week of the Broncos. So you get a better matchup in a game that, again, I think will be competitive.
Yeah, and I have Boyd in my lineup. I mentioned, so if you're doing the tournament style and you want to win all the money, not just in the money, you want to be the money. You want to get all the money. It's John Ross in the captain spot. And this is going to be like, yeah, it's John Ross. You're not going to be able to rely on the guy. But if he does do anything, you're going to have that edge over all these other people who chose Odell, maybe a Boyd, maybe Chubb, maybe Mixon, or a quarterback in that spot. But John Ross last week, he actually led all Cincinnati receivers in snaps, which is something that I think is key. And then he wasn't a huge fantasy asset, but he ran routes on 84% of dropbacks last week and just caught 2 of 5 targets for 17, but tough matchup because the Chargers brought a lot of pressure. Give it this week. Could go boom. Shout out to Ben Gretsch for those little tidbits right there. So I like John Ross. Also, like you mentioned, you got to stack with the quarterbacks of Joe Burrow in my lineup. I think I said that Chubb's going to be a guy this week, so he's going to be in there with Mixon, Boyd, and Beckham. That's a lineup you can have. $0 remaining. I know Dan got mad at me for leaving some money in some of my lineups last week, but this time, no money remaining in this captain spot. I have it on my phone right here. It's good to go. So that's what I'm doing for Thursday night. But now let's bring it back in. Let's retail it back in for the podcast listeners. We're reeling it back in. Week 1, Dan mentioned, wasn't too great because of Eckler and OBJ. So a little bit brief, under 5 minutes to reflect on week 1. What went wrong? What went well? Because I mean, DJ Moore didn't do what I wanted him to do. I'll start with that. I said the DJ Moore triple stack. I mean, it was Robbie Anderson, I guess. But DJ Moore, signals were good. 28% target share in that offense, 9 targets. Also had 3 of his targets go 15-plus yards downfield. People worry about his touchdowns. He did have an end zone target where he was closely covered that got batted away. But the signs are there. I'm not selling DJ Moore in any of my leagues, and I'm also not fading him in DFS for cash.
Had some drops, Justin. I think he owes you some like push-ups or something for those couple of drops he had in that game. That's unacceptable.
Hey, man, he'll get him back. That game's in the past now. He knows what he has to work on. He's out there.
Great players have a short-term memory, and he's definitely a great player. And I think Carolina did show enough where they're going to pass the ball, they're going to spread it around, and you're just hoping that hey, maybe this week will be better, Justin. You get that DJ Moore breakout game.
I'm hoping, man. DJ Moore dance party. Also, I like to point out, you guys listen to me, which maybe you shouldn't have, maybe you should have, but DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley counter stack worked out very, very well, and I wish DK Metcalf had hands on one of those plays because he had a drop that would have gave him the 100-yard DK bonus, but Calvin Ridley went off. So I had that in laps, and that basically guaranteed me cash. It almost did because those two put up 40-something points together. So love that. And of course, the can't miss check mark last week was Josh Jacobs. I was on that. You were on that. If you weren't on it, then you need you listen to this podcast and be on it. That's what you need to do. Also, quarterback, I hit on it. I don't like Josh Allen, but DK and fantasy points are attracted to Josh Allen. That worked out really well for me in my one GPP. Helped me place in a nice little one of my GPP lineups I did. So Josh Allen, shout out to you.
Yeah, Josh Allen was great, man. And I think like similarly, I wish I played more cash. I probably would have done a little bit better. The guys, I look back at my rankings last week of the guys I was looking at and highlighted Josh Jacobs. That crushed big. The problem was I also highlighted Eckler. That didn't work out. I highlighted Metcalf, worked out. Quarterbacks were good, but some guys that hurt me. I even highlighted Devontae Adams. I had some Devontae Adams shares, Justin, with 41 points.
I missed that.
The problems were in the lineup. I'm mad. It was close to kickoff, Justin, and I was starting to lean McKinnon, and I didn't have the kahunas to put him over Antonio Gibson in all my lineups. And if I did, I would have had that touchdown and some more production where Gibson just – they ended up playing it safe and going with Barber more, even though Gibson had 4 yards of carry and flashed. I think process-wise for 4,000, Gibson made sense, but they liked Barber's 1.8 yards per carry and just kept giving him the red zone work, and it wasn't Gibson's day. So the Gibson pick hurt me. The Eckler pick hurt me for GPP. And then just there's a lesson to be learned with the Gibson pick because he became chalky, and I kind of just went with that narrative and went with him. And if I just went more contrarian and took McKinnon, I would have cashed a lot more. So I'm mad about that one, but going to make up for it this week, Justin. Back on track. We'll find another stack. I was right with the Ravens stack. Cleveland didn't produce on the other side to make it GPP worthy.
Yeah, and the important thing here is that we're learning just as our listeners are also learning, and we're here to make you guys win some money. So we're not going to just put our heads down. Like you said, great players have short-term memory loss. So we're going to move on, take the notes that we need to take away from what we did wrong and improve on that to give you guys some winning plays this week. My wide receivers weren't great last week, but like I said, the Ridley Metcalf hit, the McLaurin and Allen Robinson, that was just unfortunate, but the volume should be rare for both of those guys weeks coming forward. So let's get into week 2. It's crazy. We're already on second week of the NFL season, Dan. We're here. Quarterbacks for this week. What you got for me?
Buddy, I am loving, and I'm not just being a homer here, but that Dallas-Atlanta game with a 50-point over-under that I think could be a shootout where both teams could score. Atlanta's not going to let me down like the Cleveland Browns did. And I love Dak Prescott this week at 6,800. I could even make an argument for Matty Ice at 6,600. So I'll take it either way there at this early part of the week, the mid part of the week here. We'll know more. I know some guys we're finding out who did or didn't practice today, so the injury report's becoming more clear. I am a little bit worried about the Dallas offensive line. I need to know that Tyron Smith is going to play at left tackle. The right tackle, Justin, I think your long-lost uncle might be trying out for him tonight. It's getting pretty thin for the Cowboys at right tackle. So there are some offensive line concerns, but I think they could get away with it versus Atlanta. I love Lamar. I love Mahomes, but to save $1,000+ and get a chance at Dak or Matty Ice in a very beautiful stack, that is enticing to me. So that's where I'm leaning at quarterback this week. Now in GPP, I'm going to take some other flyers that aren't as probably chalky as those guys. I was looking at Tannehill a little bit at 5,900, believe it or not, but if AJ Brown's not there, I'm going to be out on that one because he needs all his weapons to really cash. Doing a little bit studying right now on Tom Brady, 6,500. Does Aaron Rodgers repeat at 6,900? I really like Jared Goff at 5,800 there with the Rams. I mean, he was locked in versus my Dallas Cowboys, man. I mean, Trayvon Diggs, Dallas's corner was toe for toe with their receivers, and Goff still put it where only the receiver could get it. So if he could stay hot and play the Eagles, and it could be another shootout with a 49-point over-under, that could be a good one. And I always got to look at my boy Cam, man. Cam's off to a good start. So that's where I'm at, man. I know we can't circle back, but I know we got a little comment there from Paul Toth. I think we know that guy asking about Mixon tonight. We like Paul Mixon. We like Mixon, Paul. He's on the radar. But tell Paul he's got to show up early for the show if he wants that single game information.
Yeah, you got to show up on time. You can't come in asking about these single game slate informations. But the quarterbacks you touched on, I don't have a single one you mentioned as one of my plays this week, which I guess is a good thing because we're giving them lots of plays this week. I like the Dak. I don't have it there because I thought it was going to be a little chalky, quote unquote, but it highest over under on the whole entire slate. My guy for cash this week, I have two guys for cash, really. Philip Rivers. This dude is not sexy, but he's 5,900. He loves throwing to his running backs, so he's going to have some completed targets. And his running backs, we have a stack later. I love a triple stack with this team right here in Indianapolis right here. But 49-point over-under with the Vikings, who had the lowest pressure rate last week when facing Aaron Rodgers. And you know how good Indianapolis' offensive line is. So Rivers going to have all day to throw, it looks like. Also, over-under, like I said, 49 points. It's up there. And they have a top 10 team implied total for this week. So they're going to be scoring points as well. So Philip Rivers in cash is someone I'm looking to lock in and help me pay up for some other guys. Tannehill, I was on until this A.J. Brown news came out today. His knee bone bruise. So he's going to be week to week, which means month to month, I think. So I'm concerned about A.J. Brown. Now, this is going to be ugly. I'm warning you, Dan. I want you might as well just take your headphones out because it's just not sexy at all.
I'm still stuck on the Rivers not being that sexy, but I'll come back to that.
We'll come back to it. But this is disgusting. I don't even want to say this. This hurts me to say, but Mitch Trubisky is a cash play for me. He's a cash play for me this week. He's a cash play for me this week.
Bears quarterback.
It's disgusting, but he's 5,500. And let me tell you, if you have this guy in your quarterback slot, just wait till you see the rest of your lineup, what you're able to do with this guy in your quarterback spot. And 5,500, he gets you at least 15 points. That's almost 3 times return on investment right there. And he looked like crap last week, but he got lucky with it. But the Giants defense isn't that great. It's not that great. It's not sexy, but it's going to give you some studs in your lineup. Go ahead. What do you got, Dan? It's not going to be pretty, but it's gonna help you win some money with these. What?
This challenge flag is coming out because I argued. We did our hot takes of overreactions week 1, and one of mine was the Chicago Bears offense. Justin, last week,
they suck.
Trubbs, who is not a good quarterback, okay,
he's
and on a suspect Chicago Bears offense, goes up against the Lions, who went into that game with their number 1 draft pick out in the secondary. They had a banged up secondary going into that game. They lose 2 secondary members during the game. Their top linebacker, Jamie Collins, gets ejected from the game early enough. Buddy, you could have thrown touchdowns to come from behind in that game there.
I would have. I would have looked at A-Rob and been like, hey, man, here you go. I'm giving you 100% target share right here. But
so I don't think Trubbs is going to be that lucky again this week with an over-under of 43. And
but
I know we're talking cash. And he could run a little bit.
GPP. This is 100%. You play this in a tournament, you're just giving away free money. This is a cash play because you're going to make the rest of your lineup. Dan, you're not ready for what I got for running backs and wide receivers. But
I think we need to go back to Philip Rivers and say that's a good pick now because that's a safer pick than Mitchell Trubisky. and I was looking at Rivers. I know I didn't mention him in my plays, Justin. I do like the Colts this week. I think they're going to be angry. I think they're a well-coached team. They're going to be bouncing back. Because one thing I say about week 1, I know a lot of people I'm listening to on the different shows are saying, the quality of play wasn't that bad in week 1 considering there was no preseason. I partially disagree with that. Like, I think it wasn't that bad. I enjoyed football, but there were enough plays during games. Like, if you watch Dallas where Zeke catches this little swing pass and runs, at one point 7 guys watched him and didn't even attempt to tackle him. Like, there were those little breakdowns, those little nuances I see in games where teams still aren't that sharp. And I think the Colts are just too well coached to lose to a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think that was a big eye opener for them. I think they took that game lightly and they won't this week. But my question for you there is Jonathan Taylor. That's the reason I didn't go with Philip Rivers. I think that running game is going to get going as well.
Triple stack, triple stack. We'll get into that soon. But those are my cash game lineups, and then a guy for GPPs who I was looking at, and I was like, I don't really know. I don't play as GPPs as much as you play GPP, but a guy that I was attracted to. So I was scrolling, I saw Dak Prescott. I was like, yeah, that's a good price. But then Kyler Murray at 6,100. He may have a little bit of high ownership, but I'm not stacking him with Hopkins. I'm stacking him with Christian Kirk, and we'll get into that after this. But he looked good last week, like really, really good. And against San Francisco's defense, who people just think that he's, it's the best defense in the league. People argue. I said it's not. But Washington this week, not as good as San Francisco, but their front 7 is definitely intimidating. But this could lead to him having more scrambles. He rushed the ball 13 times and basically just toyed with the 49ers last week. Had over 100 yards until those shotgun kneel downs, which was awful. But rushing upside is better than I thought it was going to be. And Kyler Murray, GPP, stack it up. So we're gonna go to wide receivers. I'm mentioning Christian Kirk in a GPP. That's my first guy. I'm gonna. All right, you got timeout.
Just one last quarterback point, emergency timeout there. You made some good points in talking about the chalk, and Kyler did look good last week. Paul knows, get rid of Trubisky. Kyler did look good, and I like him. You talked about highest owned quarterbacks. This week it is Kyler Murray and Dak Prescott. Now it's not as chalky or as high owned as last week. Like Lamar was through the roof, top of the charts owned last week. It's about 11-10% own range for Kyler and Dak. So I still like them. Again, they're not crazy owned, but they are the highest owned quarterbacks on the slate. So with that, Justin, back to you. Timeout over. Back to the wide receivers.
Yeah, Christian Kirk. That's my guy. 5 targets. People are like, oh, he did nothing. Well, guess what? Thanks to Rich Rebar, one of the smartest guys in this industry, in my opinion. He sharp football, analytics, and all that stuff. So, way smarter than, way on the playing field. He pointed out he's not concerned because Richard Sherman doesn't shadow. He plays one side of the field. And Cliff Kingsbury.
Breaking news, Sherman might be out.
Well, Sherman, I saw he was injured, but last week he was healthy, and he played one side of the field. And so Cliff Kingsbury last week had some 3D chess level games going on, saying, I'm going to free up Hopkins. I'm going to put Kirk on this side so we can get Hopkins the ball. Hopkins had a 44% target share. 44% target share. And a career high in catches his first game in Arizona. I'm already taking the L on that. I was wrong on Hopkins. I sold him everywhere I had him, and I don't really regret it, but good for Hopkins. I'm happy he's doing well. Definitely top 2 wide receiver in NFL. It's him or Julio Jones for me. But Christian Kirk, cheap little play. I'm playing him in GPPs. Cash games, I'm not probably playing them, but in GPP, I do like Christian Kirk.
And this is a good thing for our listeners. They get 2 different perspectives from us because, again, we're teaching the listeners, to create their own strategies. We're giving them different leads of the angles that we're looking at. You have me taking notes right now, looking at Christian Kirk and thinking about Kyler again. I wasn't on the Kirk radar yet. I do love Nuke. I'm just starting to think he is matchup proof. To your point too, I didn't trade him, but even if you did trade him, I mean, you're getting good value for Nuke, but I'm mad I wasn't on him, trying to acquire him when everybody came off of him thinking, new team, new system. When you're great, it don't matter. I played wide receiver and semi-pro in college, and the good receivers, they're going to get him the ball. They're going to get there. So there's just, I'm mad I fell into the industry narrative of, questioning that at all.
It's not a narrative. It's proven over there, but I think Hopkins he's different. Odell, I thought would be different too, but Baker sucks. Kyler's at least competent and knows what he's got. Yeah, whereas Baker was trying to target Antonio Callaway last year over Odell. I'm not going to get into that right now.
The Browns, man. Everybody gets crushed when they go to the Browns. The careers go to ruin when you go to the Cleveland Browns. So, we'll see how that plays out. They've at least finally have some stable coaching. Hopefully they could get that on track. I don't know if the roster's built that way, but Nuke's in an ideal situation with Kyler Murray, man. You put a great receiver with a great quarterback. He may not be great yet, but Kyler's going down the right direction. So I'm with you. Arizona stack is interesting. It's a matter of who could you stack it back with is the $1 million question for my GPP plays here.
Antonio Gibson. You're going back to the well. That's what I'd say. The signals were a little better than people thought, but if you want to stack it back, I like Antonio Gibson in the counter stack with that, or someone named Terry McLaurin, who I love.
Now's the time to go back to Gibson. It's those guys that, you're often on week 1 and they didn't pan through for you, and then you give up on them. Week 2, the talent's still there. They seem to come through. So it makes you think about Gibson. McLaurin, I like. He is one of the higher owned guys on the slate, the chalky wide receivers, Justin.
Well, he's not on my list. I was just saying you asked who to stack it back with. I don't have McLaurin on my list. The guy... Yeah.
I'm telling the listeners, Justin. I'm not telling you, Justin. I'm telling the listeners, man. I get to talk to you 7 days a week. But the listeners need to know that everybody is on McLaurin early right now at 5,900 in DraftKings, along with Paris Campbell, Devontae Evans, and Mike Evans are the chalky wide receivers at this point of the week. So keep that in mind. And don't forget my boy Steve Sims, Justin. He only got 3 targets. That's what I'm mad about. But he caught all 3 for about 50 yards. Hopefully they get him more involved. And Logan Thomas, you didn't mention either, too, at 3,600.
We're not tight ends yet.
But we're talking about the stack. All right, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You're going full steam ahead. I love it, but
you can tell I'm pumped. I'm mad, Justin. I didn't score big in those contests last week. I need to bounce back.
Yeah, so wide receiver I'm also looking at, you mentioned Devontae Adams being highly owned. Well, guess what? Cash games, I'm playing him with my Mr. Bortles lineup because he's 8,100. He did what he thought he was going to do. 17 out of 44 pass attempts went to Devontae Adams. Detroit secondary is not good. It's trash. Fire it up. It's a lock-in lineup for a cash, and I'll go lower. also high owned, but if I'm playing Rivers, I'm playing Paris Campbell 100%. He's the clear number 2, and they have a high team total. I mentioned that earlier with Rivers. That's why I'm playing him. The Vikes secondary is also trash. He runs a 4.3140. Dan, that's pretty fast. I know you play wide receiver, but I don't know if you're getting up to those kind of speeds on the field out there. 4.3140, and the guy who's guarding him, I forget his name, I think it's Hunter, runs a 4.64. So there's some big play potential, and 7 out of his 9 targets on this past Sunday traveled 10+ yards down the field. Love seeing that. He seemed to be a play on their offense. I love me some Paris Campbell this week. I don't care if it's chalky because I'm stacking it with Rivers, which makes me have a little bit lower percentage ownership because that stack probably isn't as popular as people probably going with Rodgers and Adams.
He's a good one for GPPs to stay on and just hope you hit him one week. Paris Campbell reminds me of a more talented Tyrell Williams, who Phillip Rivers loved with the Chargers. We used to always joke, Al Seinfeld called him the Gazelle, as Tyrell Williams would have those occasional breakout games. I think Paris Campbell at some point, maybe this week, is going to have one of those breakout games. So I see where you're going with that. Definitely like it. I also like T.Y. Hilton, Justin. I mean, he's still the guy with the Colts. They bounce back. I could see him getting a lot of love as well. And he's only 5,700. You're looking at a number 1 wide receiver at 5,700. Maybe if you're stacking the Colts there, you take both of them, Paris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton. I guarantee you nobody will be on it. So you got me thinking about that a little bit.
It's just what I do. I make you think.
Play it back with Dalvin Cook and then work your lineup from there.
Sounds like a plan to me. And wide receiver, I'm also kind of on. So I mentioned the triple Bortles lineup. I'm going to keep going back to that because I think he's a good pick for cash because you can literally stack the crap out of your lineup. Trent Taylor is 3,300. And if you're going to pay up for Devontae Adams in that lineup with Trubisky, then Trent Taylor is a free square kind of guy. 3,300 on DraftKings. If he gets you 10 points, guess what? That's 3 times return on investment right there. So you're looking for targets, and the whole entire team's just banged up right now. Deebo Samuel's not going to play. Ayuk didn't even practice today. They signed Mohamed Sanu. He's coming back. All right, so Ayuk may play this week, but guess what? Kittle's not playing this week. He's getting a decision, but I doubt they play him. So I'm going to go with Trent Taylor as a free square. Corey Davis, $4,000 in cash as well. A.J. Brown's not going to play this week, so he's going to probably be a target benefactor as well as our boy, Jonnu Smith, who I do love.
We didn't get to tight ends yet, Justin. Didn't you tell me that?
I messed up my own rule. I'm over here. I do like a Dallas player this week. And that's CD Lamb. CD Lamb is 4,700. It's a high team total. You mentioned how the 54 or 53 point over under is insane. So you're gonna see these TDs on Sunday, and you're just gonna be like, oh, yeah, I'll take this guy. 4,700 in your lineup. Also, another guy I want to touch on is Darius Slayton, $5,000 in cash. Chicago secondary has some injuries dealing with, and he's been eating lately. He seems to be a guy who can just give you 100+ yards DraftKings bonus, and he's cheap. You can get a nice return on investment. So $5,000. He gets 15 points. That's 3 times return on investment right there. So cheap. I kind of like to go with one high guy or go with 3 low guys in the cash lineups to get some free targets to make my running backs overpowered.
Yeah, I like that deep dive on Trent Taylor. I had him last week in some lineups. I was hoping he'd be a stash with Debo out last week, even though Kittle was there. There was no Ayuk, and he had some catches, he had some targets, but he didn't do a lot with them. But with Kittle out, that could really go up. I might have been a week early on that one. To go with the receivers, I do again love that Atlanta Dallas game, and I think you want. At first I was looking at, hey, do I take one of Julio and one of Cooper as the number 1 receiver? Do I take one of Ridley, one of Gallup as the number 2, one of CeeDee Lamb, one of Russell Gage, who really came on last week? And I don't think that was a fluke. Everything I've been listening to, and even liked Gage a little bit last season as he flashed then, and now he's coming to his own, and he's the slot guy there in Atlanta. They're all in a similar price range. Julio's at 7,400, which isn't crazy for an elite guy like that. And I don't know if Dallas corners could handle Julio. And then Cooper at 6,300 now, maybe as low as he's gonna be. He's fully healthy as of today. This could be a Cooper breakout game. I need to study it a little bit more. Ridley at 6,800, solid. He's not too far off from Julio. It depends how your roster construction is. Gallup's only 5,600. If for those out there that keep saying Gallup's the number 1, depending on where I land with Cooper, that's interesting. CeeDee Lamb 4,700, like you said, I love that. And he's got a nice matchup. And Russell Gage is 4,800. So it really comes down to how you construct your lineup. And the other non-Dallas Atlanta receivers that I like, I'm going right back to Hollywood Brown at 6,200. I think it's a number 1 receiver.
Yes, sir.
I think he's matchup proof with Lamar there, and I love that play. And I think Mike Evans bounces back as well. I think there's still no Godwin. He is going to be the guy. I think Brady's ticked off. Arians called him out in the media a little bit this week. I think you might see a Tom Brady, Mike Evans show there.
Definitely could see that, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm going to stay away. I like Scotty Miller, though. Scotty Miller's a nice little sleeper kind of thing. You can throw in there at your flex spot if you're trying to save money as well. Now going on to the running back section of the show. And let me tell you, this Bortles lineup I have, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh, I'm mouth-watering, Dan. It's a nice little cash lineup for sure. Your boy Ezekiel Elliott is my lock of the week. I'm making sure I get him in every single lineup. 8,200 against Atlanta. High team total. He looked really good last week. Like, not just obviously with touchdowns, but he looked conditioned. And I was a little surprised. Second highest team implied total was behind the Ravens, who they're going to probably have the number one team implied total every single week because of Lamar Jackson. So second highest, aka the first highest, because we're not including the Ravens in this discussion for points they're going to be putting up. So Ezekiel Elliott, run it up. I love it. 8,200.
You're right. He did look in shape last week, and I was hoping he was showing off his conditioning. He scores a touchdown and he breaks out the abs, but later I find out during the week he was actually showing off his "Feed Me" tattoo. That was
worst
on his
tattoo ever. That's
right.
We're gonna give that. That's just not a good tattoo, Dan. I don't care what you say. You can love Zeke with all your heart, but that tattoo is just that's just brutal. He doesn't need to do that. He can just do this instead of showing it. That's an awful tattoo, Zeke. Not a fan of that.
He must be trademarking it. This must be a new Zeke business coming out there. So I'm going to support my Cowboys business.
No, don't support the tattoo. Support the business, not the tattoo. That's ugly tattoo, man.
It's his entrepreneurial efforts. But I was disappointed. I thought he was showing off the critics that were saying he might be out of shape or questioning him. He did look great there. And but I like your lock of the week. I'm again a little apprehensive because he is going to be chalky. He is the chalk of the week. Him, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor.
What if I told you get all three of those in one lineup, Dan, with Devontae Adams?
Yeah. Benny Snell's the other chalk at 45.
Benny Snell's a free square running back. That's a free square running back. You could just plug him in and he'll get you the points for the week for sure. I also really love Jonathan Taylor. I don't care if he's chalky. I'm playing him because this Bortles lineup is going to get you cash. I have Zeke in it. I have Jonathan Taylor in it. 5,700. There's no way I'm not going to play him this week. 6 targets, 6 catches on only 13 routes run, which is very encouraging because people said, oh, he can't catch passes. Well, guess what? He catch passes. He can do it. And now he's going to get more carries early on when, last week it was Marlon Mack before he got hurt. So he's going to get carries. 8th highest team implied total. Can't even speak over here, but 5,700. I'm playing him. Also, it's never a bad idea to play CMC, but in order to do that, you're probably going to have to play Benny Snell in your lineup to get CMC in there and cash and even GPP because CMC, it doesn't matter what he's playing against Tampa Bay. I don't care. I don't got to explain to you why you should be playing CMC in your lineups. Derrick Henry, you mentioned, it's the Jaguars. That's all I'm going to say. If you want to know what happens when Derrick Henry plays the Jaguars, just go on YouTube, say Derrick Henry versus Jags, and you'll get a lot of videos of him just tearing apart that defense over and over again. He also had 3 targets, 3 catches last game, which is huge for Derrick Henry because people say he can't catch passes. He also, CC Ben Gretch, once again, great stat finds, 20 routes run in Monday's game, which beat his 2019 season high of 18. So he's running routes more than we thought he would. And I love seeing that from Derrick Henry. So 7,900, get him in your lineups if you can. He's more viable on FanDuel because it's half PPR compared to DraftKings. But even there, I'm still playing Derrick Henry. I also like Aaron Jones this week. Aaron Jones is interesting. I'm okay with paying up for him. That's another guy. And then my GPP, the GPP play of the week, Dan. The GPP play of the week. I don't know if you know who this guy is, man, but we got it's Miles Sanders. That's just what comes down to. It's the Miles Sanders party, man.
Tell them to bring me my money.
Yeah, it's all about the Miles Sanders this week. Full practice. That's all I need to say. You can also counter stack. I know Dan loves his counter stacks with the opposite game, the Rams. So you're going to counter stack with Robert Woods. That's what you're going to do if you want to do that. So GPP, Miles Sanders, 6,000. Lock him in for GPP.
You're probably good for the rest of the show now. I know you could not wait to do that all day after Miles Sanders did not play last week. You had to be going through withdrawal. You probably had the shakes last week, and then
it was awful.
now you get to roll it out. And hey, at 6,000, I'm with you on the Miles Sanders. He's an interesting take. He's practicing in full. He's the guy. Well, all good news in your Miles Sanders world. So I think you're back there. I like your take on Aaron Jones at 7,100. My only apprehension with that, though, is the reason I'm on Rodgers and Adams is I think they might really attack that Detroit secondary again if it doesn't get healthy. But Aaron Jones catches a lot of passes, too, out of the backfield, so he could be a strong play. I love Zeke. I love Derrick Henry. It's just so chalky. I need to kind of work through how much chalk I want in. I'm going to play more cash and be okay with that chalk, as you say. But in GPP, how chalky am I willing to go? I could fit him in with Snell, but then I'm going to have the most chalkiest lineup in the world. So I've got to find some other takes. And my other take that, you didn't mention that I like, that is a GPP play for sure, is Devin Singletary. And I'm going to get away from the script that Zach Moss is the guy to go because he looked average last week. Well, Singletary did look good last week. He just needs to get a red zone carry. I'm hoping Singletary
which he's not going to get.
Don't doubt him. They believe in the veteran, the guy coming back. They're playing the Miami Dolphins. Everything works versus the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins are not good. I'm sorry, that's your team. I know, but isn't there secondary where they put all that money in this year? So it might be a little bit of a tricky game for Josh Allen passing, and they might lean on the run and those checkdowns just a little bit more there. All right. I like the Dolphins hat. It's about time you got some swag, but you're not an official fan yet because they still didn't write you back. You need to write him.
COVID. I'm gonna write him again. I'm like, hey, I'm still waiting over here.
We're in season now. We need to know if they got Justin's letter there confirming he's a fan and off of the 2 previous bandwagons and making this official.
Whoa. One.
Hey. Father-son podcast. We broke this down good. It's 2. Come on, you were a Giants fan. You were a Browns
Giants
fan.
was by default. That was just like, oh, you're born into my family. This is where I spawned. I can't choose my spawn point, Dan. I spawned in a New York household.
That's fair. That's fair. But, I guess wrapping up the running backs, I'm keeping a little bit of an eye there. Jonathan Taylor. Naheem Hines at 5,300. He's getting a ton of catches. Again, Marlon Mack is out of that backfield, out for the year, unfortunately, for Mr. Mack. And that just leaves a lot of burn for Taylor and Hines behind that O-line.
Taylor, baby. Hines is fine. I also have a question. So you mentioned Singletary. I have a super contrarian play I'm looking at just 2 guys. I like DeAndre Swift because the targets are going to be there and they're going to be trailing most likely to Green Bay. So he's a nice little sneaky GPP play.
He's going to be mad too. He's going to be hungry after dropping that game winner.
Exactly. So 5,200 is a guy named Melvin Gordon, the third. And there's no Philip Lindsay this week. I'm wondering the volume's going to be there. Bad matchup for sure, but the volume's going to be there and it's a contrarian play. I'm not saying like, oh, you want this guy in your lineups, but I'm saying if you want to have one lineup, that's a little different, man. You got to branch out. You got to have that one guy. You're not saying it's him at all. Even with the volume's going to be there, Dan.
2 words for you, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Royce Freeman. If you in your redraft, if you need a deep sleeper, Royce Freeman. He's gonna get touches, man. I'm telling you. They say he's looking good. He's competing. He just is tough with Lindsey there, but Lindsey's out. Royce Freeman's gonna go right into that Philip Lindsay role, and that bell cow back you're hoping for is not quite going to be there. And on top of they're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers and that very good defense. Justin doesn't like it.
That's for both. That can work for both sides. The Melvin Gordon play can be a sound trombone, or me having control of this can also be that. Now moving on to tight ends and defenses, want to wrap this episode up for the viewers. So tight ends last week, George Kittle was a miss because, of course, that knee injury looks scary, but he's okay. There's a lock, though. There's a guy who you love a lot. You're basically a closet Ravens fan at this point. But Mark Andrews, man, 6,300. His best season. He beat a season high last year of routes run on snaps, and I love seeing that. That is a. I mean, I don't really have any victory sound effects. I guess I can just do. This will work right here, Dan, because Mark Andrews' season's in this year. He could be a tight end 1 overall. It's not going to shock me at all. I think at this point he's going to be a tight end 1 this season. So if he's lock him in there. 6,300, awesome. Now
that's something to just point out, Justin. We hit the nail on the head with Mark Andrews last week when we talked about him. I says, hey, the only thing we need to see from Mark Andrews is his snaps. If his snaps are increased, he is going to be the guy at tight end 1, competing with Kelsey and Kittle. Like I'm combining names there. But and he did that. His snaps were up. He was a superstar. He's still only 6,300, which is a $700 savings on Kelsey, and he's just as good. I rest my case. What were you saying?
I
was so hyped. Go ahead, take it over.
So, I mean, yeah, Mark Andrews, but I'm gonna do some cheaper options as well. And that cheap option, Chris Herndon, 7 targets last week. I do like Chris Herndon in this matchup. He's gonna get his targets, which I like to see. I believe he's 3,600. Of course, my phone fails. I mean, when I gotta read notes, like what? I'm gonna cut this out. But here we go. So tight end. Chris Herndon, 3,400, 7 targets, cheap targets at tight end. That's all I'm looking for. Logan Thomas, 3,600, a little expensive, 8 targets, and CC Bankrich, 86% of dropbacks he ran routes. I want to see
the amount of
I wanna see it.
targets he's getting and the snaps he got, Logan Thomas, that's not expensive. And it's just a matter, do you think he's going to do it again?
Top 10 tight
There's
end.
no
Yes.
reason to think he won't.
No reason to think he won't. And then lastly, this is disgusting. This hurts me to say, Dan, but if you really are in a money crunch and you got to play a guy at tight end, you're like, oh, this is awful. There's a guy who's 2,600 this week. And that's Jordan Reed. Because George Kittle's probably not playing. Jordan Reed, 2,600. It's not good. It's not good. I understand it's good, but it's cheap and it could give you some points. All you need is 5 points to double his return on investment right there. So that's my tight end play. You got any other ones you want to add in, Dan?
I do, not a lot, but I think there's like 3 ways to play this slate. It's either big time with Mark Andrews at 6,300, lock and load every week. I mean, in GPP, I'm going to have a few lineups, so there's going to be a Mark Andrews lineup. And then there's, to me, the next tier for next week is Hayden Hurst or Jonnu Smith. Hurst is at 4,600 just because of that Atlanta-Dallas shootout. If you want to go a little contrarian, get away from the receivers a little bit, put Hurst in the lineup.
My dad's going to rejoice.
Yeah, right. That one's for you, Paul. And then Jonnu Smith. I am just taking Jonnu Smith every week until his price is where it's supposed to be. He scored. He got snaps. They run him in motion at the goal line. He's going to get carries. This shit. Like, they're just going to get Jonnu Smith the ball. And if AJ Brown's out, man, it's Corey Davis and Jonnu Smith's show.
No. Whoa. Go back a little bit. You said the Corey Davis and Jonnu. No, it's the Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis show. We got to have some respect on this guy's name.
They're playing the Jaguars, though. So exactly. I'm thinking it's everybody's show. It's just that AJ Brown's out this week. But I'm with you. Definitely Jonnu first. Been high on him. So I think you take those 2 angles or you punt. And if you're punting, Logan Thomas, who we say I like. I think he's my favorite punt. But if you just still can't even afford Logan Thomas because you want to go a little bit more star-studded lineup, Jordan Reed at 2,600. It's a beautiful punt because he's athletic. He's feeling good. He's having fun. And even Ian Thomas at 3,200 might be a punt to look at.
That effect was not for the Ian Thomas thing. That he looks like he's going to be the number 5 option in that offense behind the 3 wide receivers. But I hope he does bounce back. I like Ian Thomas, but didn't look that great. Now, Jonnu Smith, you mentioned, until the price gets to appropriate amount, we're going to keep playing him every single week. And I'm
here to tell you right now. We don't care.
We don't care. We don't care about the price because it's like around like the 5,000, 4,500 plus mark. I'm not going to really worry about that. So defenses, real quick. I got 2 for you this week. Washington. It's a nice. I mean, Kyler Murray's going to give him opportunities to get some sacks. He was awful at sacks last year, but he's improved. He better day, but lots of pressure. I mentioned that front 7, and it looked really good. But the other play I like a lot more, and if you can afford it, 3,400. The Chiefs. Chargers had the 26th implied team total. They lost to Pouncey for the rest of the season. Let's ride. 4 sacks against Houston, too.
I need some more time.
Write that down.
I'm going to make a little note. I'm definitely contemplating. There's part of me, I have a couple lineups so far as I'm trying to, find that Atlanta-Dallas stack, and there's some studs I want where I am considering punting defense, and I'm thinking, could the Chargers or the Dolphins at the bottom of the barrel there? Chargers defense played tough last week and high scoring affair. I don't know, just maybe there's a turnover. Your Miami Dolphins are big in the secondary. I like that one punt probably a little bit more. And I think Josh Allen, they could get him to go into make a mistake or two. They're playing in Miami. I think just, again, punt play, just trying to get enough points to, compete and maybe get an interception, pick 6, something surprise in there. And, I like the Titans with a kind of little Titans, Derrick Henry, a little bit of a stack if I am going to pay up a bit. They're just a mean, nasty team that is playing at home. I think the Jaguars come back to earth, and Gardner Minshew does make mistakes versus the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee. So I say the Titans are my favorite if I don't punt.
Awesome. That's going to do it for us this week. I hope we get you guys in the money. I'll be playing some cash games. And this you want to add before we get out of here, Dan?
Follow us on Twitter, guys. FF Coach Dan and Justin_FFB. We'll throw a few more DFS Twitter takes out there, and hopefully help our winners win some cash.
Subscribe if you guys made it this far. We're on YouTube again every single Thursday around 7 o'clock Eastern. And we'll see you guys next time.